Hello everyone. So we will be working on our first project in Procreate. So the first thing I'm going to teach you is how to delete a file if you accidentally create a file that you no longer want. You're going to click select, then you will click on the item and you'll hit delete. It will be deleted forever, all right? So be sure that it is something that you want to delete because there is no way to undo it. The other thing we're going to talk about is naming your assignments, because each time you create a document, it's going to come up as untitled artwork. And that's going to get really difficult to find stuff if you don't have things named. So when you click on untitled artwork, our first project is going to be clown. All right, so now it's named. There are two ways to do this. The first way you can do this is you can click photo and then select the picture of your clown that you did in class. Or if you have already created that blank document, you can come over here to the little tool box, the little tool, and you're going to click add, insert a photo. And then you can click on your photo. You can rotate it around if you need to. You can scale it up or scale it down so that it takes up most of the page. So if you have a habit of drawing small, you're going to want to make sure that you have scaled it up. All right. It is really difficult to see at the moment. There we go. That's better. All right. So I'm going to start by coming over here to my layers, and I'm going to click where it says layer 1. I'm going to click rename, and I'm going to title this base. Or no, let's title it pre-production. All right, so this was our starting point. This was our pre-production. Then we're going to click the plus sign so that we are drawing on top of it. So we have a new layer on top. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select inking. And I will go down to Studio Pen. And we want to make sure we have black selected. Remember, we want a true black, so go ahead and double tap in this dark area, and it'll give you a true black. And we want to make sure that the opacity is all the way up over here. So this bottom one needs to be all the way up. And then you need to adjust the size of your pen so that it is probably medium. Medium is probably going to be a good size for this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to outline our clown. So this is a terrible circle. But the cool thing about Procreate is you're going to draw your circle and you're going to hold, and it will automatically fix your circle to be a perfect circle. Anytime you have a curve, depending on what the curve is, you can do that same trick. So if I was drawing a curve like this, if I hold it, it's going to smooth out that curve. But let's say you're outlining the curve for the eye right here. It's going to create a straight line. So there's a lot of different tips and tricks you can use here, but so there we have the eyebrows for our evil clown. If we hold, we can get a nice crisp circle for the eyes. We're going to do the same thing on the mouth right here. So we're drawing everything, tracing with our pen. Now, let's say I'm being really quick, and so I leave this like that. You're going to find out what happens in just a moment when we are done outlining. All right, So this one, you can see it created straight lines. So we don't want that. We still want pretty curved lines. So don't be afraid to lift your pencil up and start again so that you have nice, smooth strokes. So I don't like that. I like this side of my line here, but not this side. And if I undo it, it takes away both sides. So this is when I would switch over to my eraser, check what size it is, and I would just erase this side. All right, so far so good. I do think I want to have some sharper teeth here. So I don't have to stay 100% true to what my original drawing was. Your drawing, your pre-production is your starting point. So I did accidentally switch over to my eraser, but that's okay. I'm going to switch back over to my paintbrush. And so right here, it gave me a nice smooth circle there, and I can, there we go. For the ear. And we want to make sure that all of our lines connect back to each other, that we're not leaving any holes. Again, I will explain what a hole will do in a few minutes. Now the brushes are pressure sensitive. So if I start down hard on this end and I lift up as I go, you'll notice that the tail of the pen gets thinner. And that's okay. We do want to kind of be consistent with what we're doing, so I am going to backtrack. Actually, I'm going to leave this detail for last, and I'll show you why in a minute. Let's come down here to the bow. All right, so we have a beautiful bow, and then his hair. And again, it doesn't have to match up completely to what you originally had. All right, and then again for our design here. Just kind of jerking it across so it looks like stitches. There we go. So we have our clown drawn. I'm going to come over to my layers, and where that checkbox is on pre-production, I'm going to uncheck it. So now I have just my clown. I'm going to click on layer 2. I'm going to click rename, and I'm going to call it outline. Messed up the name there. So it is outline, not outlining. All right, I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to take this top one, and I'm going to click lock, because I don't want anything happening to my outline. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to click rename, and I'm going to call it base color. So this is where I'm going to be adding color to my clown. All right, so making sure I have base color selected. I'm going to come over here and I am going to find a nice offset color of white, and I'm going to paint his skin that color. So that's more of a purple, and you will notice that his mouth is now painted purple. That is because I have this hole right here. Think of it as a pool, and when you're in your pool, you don't want any holes because the water is going to spill out if there is a hole. So we're going to unlock this layer. I'm going to come back to my black, and I'm going to fix this hole right here. And I'm going to delete my colored layer. And I'm going to lock this in again. I'm going to duplicate. And rename. All right. So again, we're going to find an offset whitish, yellowish color. Don't really want it to be a purpley color. And that is our skin tone for our person. We can also change the background color. So I can change my background color to any color I want. I think I'll do that for my background color right now. That way it is easier for me to see what I am working on. All right. So for the nose, we will have a nice red nose and a red mouth. And then his tongue, you'll notice I had another hole there because part of his teeth got turned red. So instead of adding in that black where I'm coloring, I am just going to add a little bit of red to go ahead and block that little hole. So that is another way to deal with that problem. And then I'm going to add my teeth and the eyes. For the bow, I'm going to do a yellow bow. Can we spot the hole? So this hole right here. So it does happen. It is a quick fix normally, unless you've been really quick and sloppy with your line work. So whenever you are cleaning up and digitizing, take your time to do the line work correctly because it does make a difference. Now you'll notice that I forgot to do the ears when I was coloring my clown. Now, if it's early on and I haven't changed my colors too many times, I can probably find that color here in my history. But if I clear my history, then I don't have it there, obviously. So how can I find that perfect shade again? This little black square that is in between the opacity and the brush size, if we click it, it's going to give us a disc over here. And we can drag it around our picture, and it's going to pick up whatever color we land on. So that color is now up here. That is the color I needed. And I can add it to my ears for my clown. And then for our hair, for our clown, all right, so I have done the base coloring, but there's not a lot of detail to it yet. There's not a lot of wow factor. All right, so that's what we're going to add now. So I'm going to come over here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to name, so there's two ways to do this. How do I want to teach you this? So we're going to call this one rename details. Now, if you're going to be doing a lot of different details, you might want to be specific. So this might be details bow tie. All right, so I'm going to come over to the bow tie, and I want it to be yellow with blue polka dots. So I'm going to draw blue polka dots all over this yellow tie. And the reason I'm not doing this on the layer where I did my initial coloring is if I decide I don't like this, I can turn it on and off. Or maybe I don't know if I want to do polka dots. Maybe I want to see what it looks like with stripes. I don't like the stripes. I don't like the way that the fabric is folding, the way it looks. So I don't like this approach. But I can try multiple different ways till I find what I like. I do think I'm going to stick with the polka dots. All right. The other way to add details is I'm going to use this little squiggly line here. I'm going to come over to automatic, and I'm going to select where my hair is. Now, I wasn't on the right layer. So when I clicked, it selected everything that was in that area, but it did not select the inside of those circles. I'm going to click here to deselect. I'm going to come back to the correct base. So I can do it from outline or color base. I'm going to select the inside area where the hair is. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click the plus sign to create a new layer. I'm also going to come over to my purples. And you'll notice that everything except for those two areas that I clicked have lines going through it. I cannot draw in those areas. I can only draw in the two areas that have hair. So what I can do is I can draw the hair like that, but I don't like that. So I'm going to undo that. And what I want to do is I am going to increase my brush size. I'm actually going to come back up here to syrup. And instead of doing like individual curls, I am using this color to create the illusion of blocks of hair. It is always better to draw hair in clumps than as individual strands. All right. And the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to this little weird looking tool here. And it is a smudging tool, a blending tool. So I can come over here and go along those lines and blend it out so it looks a little more natural, like the differences in hair that you would normally see. All right, so we got some cool texture going on with the hair. And then the last tool that I'm going to show you, we're going to come over to our outline again, and we're going to duplicate. We're going to click on the bottom one. We're going to unlock it, and we're going to rename it Shadows. And we're going to come back to our black. And so we're going to come in here and we're going to add shadows where shadows would normally be. So in this part of the ear right here, there would be some shadow. So that's a little too thick for that area. So I'm going to bring the thickness of my brush down. The underside of our nose right here. So again, if we hold it, it'll make that circle perfect. And I can drag and drop that black right there. I am going to add the detail of having a tongue in here. And so behind the tongue, so yeah, I still have that little bitty gap, so I got to fix that again. And underneath the chin on the bow, there would be shadow there. And we can click and drag in the color. Or we can manually color it in like if we were coloring on a piece of paper. These two lines right here, this means that the fabric is folded, and so there would be shadow there as well. Same thing right here, there's some shadow. There's going to be some shadow down here. All right, so I don't want these blacks to be as harsh as they are. So in order to fix that, I'm going to come over to my layers. I'm going to click on the N, and where it says opacity, where it's at the max, I can bring it down. And you can see where it's already starting to lighten. Or I can scroll up, depending on what it is I was doing. So could do a soft light. I kind of like that. It's kind of a brighter shadow. Hard light, vivid light. It really just depends on what it is, the effect that you're trying to do. So I do think I liked the soft light the best. So I'm going to choose that. And again, you can adjust the opacity for that layer. And you can always do a layer where you add in highlights. So we'll duplicate one more, unlock, rename, light. And for light, we will come over to white. And just like before, so I'm going to pick some random spots in the hair for there to be light reflecting. He has a nice little bald patch here. So let's across the forehead. And a nice rubber nose highlight. And for the highlights, I do want to blend this out some so that it is not as harsh in the hair because we don't have any hard lines in the hair. We want the highlights to match, being nice and soft. We could have also gone to a different brush for the highlights in the hair because you do have brushes such as airbrushing, which is going to be a soft brush. So that would have worked right there as well. All right, and so now we're going to come back to this layer. So multiply is not going to work. Darken, normal, lightens green, add a lighter color, overlay, linear. So I think our best bet is going to be overlay, and we're going to tone it down some. So we have a little bit of that lightness. There we go. We have our wonderful little clown creature, just in time for spooky season. We do want to make sure that we put our name on our artwork, so create a layer. And in the bottom right-hand corner, make sure you are on a inking brush or something like it. And sign your work. Just like that. So to turn this in, you are going to come over here to the little toolbar. You're going to go to Share, JPEG. Then you're going to click Save Image. It'll tell you exporting was successful. And so when you go to your photos, it is now saved in your photos for you to upload to Google Classroom. The other that you're going to do is you're going to go to Videos, Export Time-Lapse Video, Full Length, and Save Video. And again, you should be able to find that on your iPad. And you will submit both to Google Classroom. I can't wait to see your creations.